Thank you for joining me. Good morning and happy Cyber Monday. Yes, we are right smack in the middle of the holiday season. And we know that because it is Cyber Monday. We just had Thanksgiving, and I hope everybody had a terrific Thanksgiving. You enjoyed your turkey and you enjoyed your fellowship with your friends and your family. That's really what it's all about. And of course, it marks the beginning of the madness. The madness is upon us now. We are personally having madness right here in this office as our Black Friday sale is extended to Cyber Monday and possibly beyond, but only a little bit beyond. It always makes me laugh when someone will call. People would call last week on Wednesday and they'd say, well, how long is your Black Friday sale going to last for? Like, why do you want to know the very end? For the most part, anyone who called had already made up their mind that they wanted to take advantage of it. And I hope you take advantage of it also. Again, most of us know at this point that we want to lose weight. Most of us have chosen to do that after the holiday season, although I'm very pleased to announce that many of my clients are doing the program right now, even as we speak. So they've decided not to put off health. They've decided not to gain the 8 to 12 pounds that they would normally gain. And they're thrilled about it. The possibility of losing weight during the holiday season is subversive. It's revolutionary. And so I am thrilled that people are deciding to do that this year. Speaking of subversive and revolutionary, for the last 2 weeks, I have spoken about a rare opportunity that we have in our country, possibly. Now, I hate to hedge like that, but it seems like you have to hedge these days. Health has become part of our public conversation now. And in a different way, and maybe for the first time. Obviously, we were speaking a lot about health during the pandemic, but it wasn't health per se. It was more like survival. It was more like the fear of confronting a new and dangerous pathogen. But now we're talking about the declining rates of health in our country, and they are alarming. And we're speaking about it in a way that we have not spoken about it before for whatever reason. When you think about it, if you look at the numbers, we should be shouting from the rooftops in a zealous rage when we think about our declining health, the declining health of Americans, the fact that life expectancy is going down, the fact that chronic disease is going up and has been for quite some time. Obviously, we talk about obesity and being overweight. Obesity is 45% of the adults in this country. Being overweight or obese is 75%. These are not small numbers. Half of the people who are listening to me now are expected to get cancer. I think die of cancer, although I could be mistaken about that. Heart disease as well. And of course, even before that, there will be other metabolic issues such as diabetes. Adults are getting diabetes, what they call type 2 or adult onset diabetes, to a degree that they never have before. Same thing with children. Now children are starting to get it, so they don't even call it juvenile diabetes anymore. So it's a really interesting time because we have this kind of a this crazy guy, this mad scientist of a person who has decided to make it part of our conversation. He has decided to try to disrupt us, and now it is part of the national conversation, and there is an opportunity for a big change to be made. So I will be speaking more about this in the upcoming weeks. You better believe I will. I keep learning new things. I'm excited at the prospects, and it could be dead before it even starts because of the confirmation process. So welcome to life in a democracy. This is how precarious things sometimes are. We have this great opportunity. There is a man of vision who wants to help take it on. He is correctly, in my estimation, pinpointed what the problems are and what some of the solutions are. And yet, because of politics, he might not even get a chance. But the he really has to be a we. So I would encourage you, if you are in agreement with the things that this gentleman wants to do, or just in agreement with the notion that we need to be healthier as a country. And I want to say this right. I think it's become more apparent to everybody how small the world is in some ways, right? We don't normally think in terms of the world as a whole. We don't think in terms of the macro, right? We think in terms of ourselves and our families. So if we're doing well personally, if we're doing well as a family, then we think it's okay. Now we've kind of shifted that thinking a little bit, because I think the pandemic has caused us to realize that we are in fact all in the same canoe, and we should row in the same direction, right? We are affected by what's happening at large, by what's happening out there. It will touch our lives inevitably. And I think that realization, and the realization that health is declining, and the realization that there is a lot of corruption when it comes to healthcare, and the incentive structures are all off. The incentive structures for quote unquote healthcare providers or companies or business doesn't have much to do with better health outcomes, unfortunately. As a matter of fact, you could argue the opposite. You could argue that the poorer the health is of individuals, the better it is for the pharmaceutical companies and people who claim to be in the field of health. So it's really weird stuff in a way, and hopefully some structural change can be made. But like I said, we're going to be talking about that more, because that's not even the subject I wanted to address today. Okay, what I want to talk about today, and the holidays are a great time to talk about it, is rituals. Rituals play a larger part in our lives than we would imagine. The holiday season is a series of rituals that we have. Now, we call them holidays, and rituals come in many forms. By the way, the term ritual comes from the Latin word for rite, R-I-T-E, not R-I-G-H-T. And it has to do with a religious ceremony. At least that's the origin of the word. These are ceremonies that we have that often mark off sacred moments, or times that we want to make sacred. And they have very much to do with time, because that's the other thing they do. They partition this whole pie of time into sections. They mark lines that we cross of beginnings and of ends, right? The wonderful thing about our holiday season is that we have some important religious holidays, and they come at the very end of the year. And we get to celebrate those times right before entering what we hope is a new and better phase. So that's the fascinating thing about rituals. I would say that rituals are extremely important from that aspect, in that they tell us that something has ended and something is beginning anew, and there is a new opportunity. But I want to dive deeper into rituals, because when you think about them, and when you think about this factor of time that we are all confronted with, that nobody really beats, Some people do better than others, but ultimately time gets us all. And it is probably the most confounding thing that we deal with as human beings. We cannot master time. We tend to be the victim of time. Um, but what's interesting is that if we're talking about time, we're talking about cycles, right? And the cycle of the year is coming to an end. Okay, it's cold, it's dark, we can feel the days are shorter, the calendar is coming to an end. A year itself marks a cycle of a revolution of the earth around the sun. What's also interesting about that is that it mimics the cycle of a day or a week. There's nothing really new or novel about the cycle of the year, in the sense that the cycle of our days are the same, right? We wake up, the sun rises, it's light, and then we do things, hopefully productive things, and then the day comes to an end and we go back to sleep. It's ashes to ashes in a way, right? It's just a representation on a small scale. It's a microcosm of what we see in a year or even in a lifetime, right? This is the cycle of life. It's birth, it's growth and change, and then ultimately death. And this is kind of what we signed up for some strange reason. But it's like this in any kind of block of time that we've decided upon. It's the same thing with a week, right? The week starts, and hopefully, again, it's a blank slate to some degree, and hopefully we do the right things, and we produce some victories that will add up. But then on Friday evening, pretty much our weekend starts, and that's the end of our week, and we kind of play it differently. Generally, there are some people for whom the week and the weekend, there's not much of a distinction. But for the most part, that's a cycle also that mirrors the cycle of the day and the cycle of the year and the cycle of our lives, right? So to mark off transitions and to mark off special times, we have created these rituals, and they play a very important part in our lives. They give us something to look forward to. They give us just a sense to know about cycles and to start things anew and to create and to go through that process of creation and growth and destruction. But here's the thing about rituals, is that rituals can be creative or they can be destructive. And we see this in our own lives every single day. I often talk to my clients about their various rituals. So I will give you an example of a ritual that is destructive, or at least it can become destructive. It's pretty typical for a person after the day has come to an end to sit down in the evening with perhaps a glass of alcohol and a lot of bad food, and to indulge. And between the idleness of sitting there and the calories from the food and the toxicity of the food and of the alcohol, that can be a very destructive kind of ritual when it's done for a long time. Now, the thing about rituals is that they are very powerful. They are hard to break. And this is the ultimate conundrum with rituals, is the fact that it seems to be either we control them or they control us. And the secret sauce is basically how aware we are when we're entering into the ritual. Okay. Our volition has something to do with it. When there is no volition, when the volition is gone or hidden, when it comes to a ritual, we can do it compulsively. It could become a very destructive habit. It could become a compulsion. And ultimately, that leads to greater destruction as opposed to greater creation and life and success. And this is our problem with rituals. Are we controlling them or are they controlling us? We see this during the holiday season as well. There's a reason why the average American is going to gain like 8 pounds over the holiday season. It's because we have these rituals and we can't even sometimes see the possibility of us not engaging in these rituals in the way that we've always done it. We don't even see the choice. We don't see the space between uh, what we're supposed to do and what we actually do, right? Some people have termed it FOMO, fear of missing out. For whatever the reason, these rituals can very easily take hold of us and lead to something destructive. The question then is, how do we become the masters of them? So I'm referencing Seinfeld, and they had an episode on a certain ritual, uh, and they used a euphemism for it. They said, "Are you master of your domain?" So, are you in control or are you not in control? And we should all ask ourselves the same questions. I have stated over and over again when we've spoken that I don't care what people do. I know that sounds odd, and it's not completely true. Like I'm not completely callous or uncaring when it comes to my clients. I mean, my clients, do have an expectation of me. I don't necessarily care as long as whatever you do is conscious and it's within your volition and it's leading to where you want to be. So, in other words, there's no moral judgment. If you decide to play the holidays like some people do, and you just imbibe and party and go crazy and gain a bunch of weight, and if that's what you intended to do, then I'm fine with it because you're an adult and you have the right to make a choice. I believe in autonomy. If it is not leading to the outcome that you want, or if you are doing it mindlessly, out of habit, like a zombie, because it's what you've always done, and you're not happy with the results, then I have a problem with it. Okay, that is the rub right there. That's the difference. Okay, there's no moral judgments. There's only the consequences of having done what you set out to do or not. And when we talk about construction or destruction, and we talk about the factor of time, let's look at it this way. If we break everything down into a cycle, right? And again, the cycle is always the same pattern. It's always, birth at one end at the beginning, death at the other end. And in the middle, there's some kind of creativity, right? There's some kind of, hopefully, production and change and growth. So if we look at that, it's always our choice whether that production and change and growth is positive or it's not. And if you break that down even further, so you have your day and you're going to wake up and ultimately you're going to go to bed, so thus marking your beginning and your end, what are you doing with your day? You can break up your day into different time cycles as well. You could break it up into hours, right? So the degree to which you win those individual moments and those hours that you make a decision that's going to enhance your survival and that of others, and do it consistently. Here's the key: consistently is the degree to which you are going to succeed in whatever realm you choose and with whatever definition success is for you. I don't think I expressed that well, but you get the point. Okay? It's winning those moments that are the moments that make up the space between the birth and the death, or in this case, the waking and the going to bed, the beginning of the day, the end of the day. Okay. That is the key, and that's the game we're playing, ultimately, everyone. And there are those different realms in doing it, right? There's the realm of work, in which case those individual moments that you're winning might be, sales. It might be completing a task. It's always completing some task. Right. If it's in the realm of health, it is eating what you intend to eat. Eating what you know is healthfully for you is a big part of it. It's not the whole thing. Right? But that's an example of winning the particular moment in order to build something greater. Okay. And it could be in the realm of relationships, and that could be, to what degree you made people smile or you connected or what have you. But this has everything to do with our rituals, because if our rituals are more destructive, if our eating ritual is just based around shoving in as much as possible as mindlessly as we can, then ultimately we are going to lose in that particular realm. And that's what we're going to be doing with the cycle of the day and that space between the beginning and the end. So I'd like everyone to get conscious about their own particular rituals. As I stated before, breaking a ritual can be really hard. If for 5 years, you're used to coming home, putting on the TV, you're exhausted, and you just want to eat something, and that something very often is very satisfying, rich, carb-laden food that might give you a bit of an energy boost, it's really hard to break that ritual, right? And the ritual often is associated with some other behavior. So it's, for example, the watching the TV is inextricably bound with the eating the bad food. So in that case, my counsel to you is you have to stop doing the initial activity, which will inevitably bring about the secondary related activity. Okay. And I've had this conversation with a lot of people. I had this conversation once with a lady who was a little crazy. Let me just tell you this story briefly. I hate to speak about clients like that, but let's face it, we live in this world, and so we're going to run into some nuts. So we were talking about it, and she had one of these rituals that she did all the time. Had a really tough time breaking it. It was causing her a lot of discomfort and interfering with her ability to lose weight, to get healthier. So I mentioned this to her, that she has to change the activity, the destructive activity that she associated with eating, right? And so I asked her, I was like, is there anything else that you like to do creatively, something you've been meaning to do, a hobby? And and it seemed like a good conversation. We spoke for, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, and I laid it out like this, the mechanics of it to her, how it's so hard to separate those two activities. And a few weeks later, I heard from her, and I hadn't heard from her in the interim, and she was very upset. And when I asked her why, she said because she mentioned the problem she was having, and I told her to get a hobby. Like, that was the entirety of the discussion. I just very glibly like dismissed her and said, "Get a hobby, like get a job." So that's the fun that is sometimes dealing with people, but it's true. You have to replace the activity with some other activity that's not related. Something that, part of me, is going to be more mindful. Something that is going to be associated with something other than, pardon me. Than eating bad food or drinking copious amounts of alcohol. Okay, that's the idea. So I have this something in my drink, and by the way, I'm drinking a very fancy, nutrient laden drink right here. It's a powdered mushroom adaptogenic drink where I added some really healthy pink salt, some stevia, coconut oil, and also collagen. Okay, so this is a powerhouse of a drink, but it's gotten into my throat now. Something is stuck. Fortunately, I don't need the Heimlich, but I will be having to end off because I don't want to just have continued coughing fits. I think the point has been made, though. We are in this time period right now. We are in this end of the year cycle where we are confronted with all of these rituals. Remember, rituals are ceremonial activities that we do for various purposes. At their highest, they are sacred. So we're not thinking of profane things. We're not thinking of the body so much. We are thinking of higher purposes. At their lowest, they are just kind of scratching a sensory itch, which has its place. But I would suggest, if you're going to engage in rituals, that you always do them mindfully, that they always forward what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And if you do that, and if you do that during the holiday season, you're going to have a successful holiday season with far fewer regrets on the other side. Because there is an other side. It's called 2025. And I hope everyone has a terrific 2025. As I said, we are having our sort of end of the year Black Friday sale now here on Cyber Monday. Enjoy your shopping. Enjoy your week, and I will speak to everybody next week. Take care.